Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Speed 2 Cruise Control, starring Sandra Bullock, Jason Patrick, Willem Dafoe, and Tamora Morrison, directed by Jan de Bont. Now, I've seen this a couple of times and I keep falling asleep on this thing until I took my notes today, and let's see how this goes. Annie, returned by Sandra Bullock, is trying to get her new driver's license so she can drive again because remember last time it was revoked as she's getting tested by a driving instructor and she fails in so many levels. As Officer Alex Shaw, played by Jason Patrick, comes in as a cop when she was led to believe he was a beach patrolman, which is so dumb in so many levels as Alex was chasing after a truck. I think it was an ice cream truck of some kind, and the truck drops so many boxes in the road as Annie tries to pull over the because the cops are going after her and the driving instructor as they crash into the truck. And I don't understand what the hell happened is going on at this point, as this is a dialed down from R to PG-13 rating, and I already know what this is going to be a bad sign. And Annie is upset with Alex about how he lied about being a cop, and after she says she would never date a cop ever again until she met Alex, and he comes up with a vacation to go on a cruise on the Caribbean to get to know each other, and they suddenly kiss, and while she wants to be depressed, this is so bad already from the first frame on. They get on the cruise to get to their photo taken by Dante and bump into John Geiger, played by Willem Dafoe, while being taken on their suite on the cruise, and they get prepared to set sail as Annie gets drinks for Alex and herself, and Alex is jealous of her, and John is disguised as a different name, which is a big mistake. While in his room, John wakes up with some poisonous eels, or whatever the frick they are. I think they're called, and takes control of the ship while Annie and Alex eat dinner with some random people and can't help falling in love with you in a funky way plays as it sounds so bad. And the music being played in this is awful, as is this score. And Annie and Alex meet a deaf girl named Drew who could sign as she compliments them about how pretty their kids will be in the future eventually, as they're a beautiful couple, and the dialogue is so cringeworthy. And I don't like these characters whatsoever, as they need a Keanu Reeves in this movie. Even though he didn't come back for reasons that I guess he wanted to work with Al Pacino and the Devil's Advocate at best. John sneaks around and to the captain's commanding area and makes scene after scene to hijack the ship as he's pushing buttons and acts all drunk and funny and suspicious and breaks down the power while Alex is seasick as he puked off screen while John puts some eels on him. And the next day comes, and everybody has a good time on the cruise as Annie looks for Alex, and he feels better by needing some fresh air. And they talk about their relationship and how much they know each other. And as I'm leading to believe he's going to propose to her hand in marriage, while John knocks out a man who brought him some towels to his room and switches clothes to be one of the crew members. And this is bad writing in so many ways, as this movie has so many damn problems. Captain Paulin meets John, and John makes himself the captain of the ship and throws him off deck and takes a photo of a couple of ladies as Drew gets criticized for how she's dressed for dinner and is insulted by her mom and dad. And Annie and Alex go to dancing on the dance floor with some music, and at this point I'm very bored throughout the movie as the action scenes are not going to thrill me when I get to them. And the ship gets shaken, and we see Giuliano, played by Tamora Morrison, is being called to evacuate the people on the ship without the captain's orders. And how stupid is this plot? So stupid, I can't believe it. Giuliano pushes the evacuation button while the lights black out and back and forth, and the ship stops moving. And this came out the same year as Titanic, and if it were like that, where they hit the iceberg versus pirates on the ship, that's one thing. And from what I recall, John isn't a pirate, as we don't get to know him at all that well, and nor do we get to know any of the characters. And Alex and Annie split up so Alex can see what the hell is going on in the ship, as Drew's parents try to look for Drew, and Giuliano says he doesn't know what the guy is capable of, and he doesn't know John is terrorizing the ship and gets all the passengers out to the lifeboats. And people do get on them except for Alex and Annie, and the ship moves as people get in the water because Drew's mother is stupid enough to try to go back on the boat to go get her. And this is so stupid. Like, I'm very bored to death, as this isn't exciting me. The camera shaking during the action sequences, as I can barely follow that. And Drew tries to escape, and Giuliano comes back to the deck. And same with Alex, and who comes in to help because he's a police officer who is looking for John, and they find the guy is bringing the room towels, and Alex sees the eels in the bathtub, as he was a cop at one point before he was a criminal, became a criminal, excuse me, which felt like the first movie with the character Dennis Hopper played in it. And Annie starts finding Drew with other people on the ship, and at one point there's a guy named Harvey that says there's big men and women, and it offends a woman in particular. And this movie is not funny, as it's not trying to be funny, while looking for Drew. And Annie gets a chainsaw, which is so inappropriate to use for a search and rescue, while Alex is trying to find a way to stop John from terrorizing the ship. And I'm getting nauseated watching this movie, as it hurts my damn head. Annie uses the chainsaw to get people out of the other side of the door, and Annie doesn't know when to stop using the chainsaw, which isn't very funny. But Alex finds Drew gets her out of there, and a crap ton of water comes in the ship. And Titanic does it better than what we've got here. And they make it out alive, which doesn't surprise me all that much, because women and children first, as what Titanic did. And Annie finds Drew and Alex while John hides from the people on the ship, and suddenly Alex hunts for John and gets to him, and John finds a way to lock Alex out, excuse me. And Alex continues to look for John while the others on the ship hear John's voice, and he does catch up, and John blows him up. And can this movie just please end, as it's hurting my damn head, like I just said. Alex tries to get out while Annie looks for Alex to get him out of the other side of the door, as they use a code of Giuliano's shoelace to make the other side of the ship explode. And I'm just getting checked out of this movie because it's so freaking bad. And the next day comes in the sea, and people are in the captain's dock. And Alex sees an island as the ship goes towards it slowly, and they figure out a way to stop the ship at the island. And they see a ship where prisoners are holding this ship hostage. And the cruise ship goes towards that and asks for help from the ship where the prisoners are at. And this movie is making me dizzy from the camera shaking too damn much. They get a rope on the tail of the ship, and Alex is almost killed, but it stops the ship, and John almost escapes, but sees the ship's speed stopped, and John puts a rope on something heavy to suffocate Alex, and the speed suddenly picks up, and John points a gun at Annie to stop Alex from coming up to the ship and take her hostage, and kicks Giuliano off the ship, and Alex and Giuliano get out of the water, and the ship with the people in orange are afraid because the ship is going back towards them, excuse me. And John opens the door to let him and Annie out of the ship, and Alex almost gets out of the boat. Giuliano tells people to get away from the windows and helps Alex out of the window. And I'm just confused on to what is happening, as this movie makes no sense. Alex goes underwater on the ship as it's filled with water, and he tries to sink the water and the ship before the ship crashes into another ship, as they hit each other, but doesn't sink the ships, as it just creates scratches. And this movie is absolutely mindless, but the cruise ship does get a hole on it, and John's plan failed, and everybody is safe and sound until they get closer to the island where there are boats and civilians there, and they drop the heavy metal to the ground, but it breaks off and crashes into boats and civilians as it slows down, and it keeps hurting people and their ships. And again, why does this movie exist is beyond me. The ship gets closer and closer like it's going to be a disaster movie, but this movie is already a disaster. And no wonder Jan de Bont never worked on film again after Tomb Raider 2. And it almost crashes into an apartment complex while a mother and little boy escape from there as the worker there. And oh my god, can't this ship just stop? But it's almost there, and I'm very checked out of the movie, and it stops when it hits the bell, which drove me nuts. And thank God I was never on the cruise line or this one in particular, because it would have been a 1-star review from me. And the ship tilts to the side and breaks some buildings, all because of Willem Dafoe's nut job of a character's plan. And Giuliano breaks both of his arms as Alex goes after John with Annie. And Annie splits off from John as Alex gets a bow from the guy whom I believe was in the first movie, but with a boat on his date. And this time he drives and gets Annie while with John. And why is this still going? I mean, God. My God. Alex gets closer to Annie with John as they're on a plane to grab a hold of it as Annie fights John off, but John gets the upper hand and Alex gets the plane and beats up on John and saves Annie's life. And John almost gets killed by a ship which goes kaboom. And that was dreadful. And Alex and Annie get off the ship while Annie can't swim because she's in handcuffs, and get out of the water and are safe from the giant kaboom. And Alex proposes Annie's hand in marriage. She accepts. And I knew that was coming from earlier in the film, as Annie takes this driver's test one more time, and she might fail again. And this is the worst, most headache-worthy of a climax yet to date. But how worse was this movie? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.2 out of 10. From the first frame on this movie is so bad in so many levels, but where to begin? Keanu Reeves not being in this is not a good sign, as it's super dumb. While I don't like the characters whatsoever, unlike last time, and the dialogue is so cringeworthy, like this is bad writing in so many ways, and this movie has so many problems. This is definitely not as good as the original, and I've brought up this before on other shows. Why does this movie need to exist is beyond me. And I'm very bored with the movie throughout, and the action scenes didn't thrill me whatsoever. And how stupid is this plot? So stupid that I can't believe it's because this is the worst script yet to date of the year 1997. Titanic came out the same year, as that is a much better movie about a ship crashing than this movie is, in my opinion. As this is so stupid, I'm just bored to death, and this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie, as the camera shakes during the action sequences that I just can't follow it. And this is the worst sequel to a Die Hard on a ... yet to date. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this retrospective, and until then, when I find you...